For the past few months, it's no secret, I have been working on this painting right here. It's definitely one of the most complicated paintings I've ever done, but I was definitely up for the challenge. I knew what I was going to get myself into by painting countless sheep, and to boot, a very expansive background with lots of different fields. But now the time has come for me to finish this painting. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about the strategy that goes into finishing a very complex painting. Hello and welcome. My name is Charlambos. I go by Bob. I'm not your typical painter. And today, I'm going to talk about how to finish a painting. Full disclosure, I'm not going to finish it today, or even probably a month from now. One thing I don't like to do is rush through my work. So let's look at this painting of mine as an example on what steps I take and what I look into when it comes to trying to finish a painting. One of the challenges of doing a painting sometimes, if you end up working different sections at different times, there might not be some unity at the very end. And that's going to be one of the biggest things I'm going to emphasize in this video by using my painting as an example. The unity could be from a lot of different things. It could be from color, it could be from the amount of detail you have, or even lack of detail. And it could just be some sections that just stand out in a bad way, whether it's some area that needs to be reworked or just outright eliminated. That's why even before you come to the conclusion of your painting, always step away from it for a little bit and take a look from a distance, and most importantly, look at it as a whole and not as individual parts. I'm talking about dissecting everything and seeing how you could bring it all together to finish it. There's always a lot of things I could do differently, but you always have to ask yourself, is it really worth doing it? There's parts of the field and even certain grass blades I wish I could have done differently. More on that later. But the most important thing I always find is unifying everything. Because if you're not careful, in the end your painting might have some issues. And for me, it was a color transition of the grass. First, let's talk about the obvious. I'm not done with these sheep at all, so those definitely need some work. But besides that, there's also the sky in the background. I am having a lot of debate on how I should proceed and finish it. Part of me wants to leave it peach, and the other part of me wants to add just a hint of some clouds. This is going to be a decision I'm going to make at the very end, because one of the last things I want to do is eliminate that nice glow from the peachy sky on the top. Anyhow, one of the things I definitely need to work on is unifying the grass at the front with the grass in the back. When you step away from the painting, the color balance is very uneven. It's almost too cool on the bottom left. I think my problem was I was using mostly cool colors. Also, there's some unfinished areas, such as this area here, that I need to work on. My goal is to finish this area first before I work on the color balance. That way I get an idea of probably how to finish the rest of the painting. Besides the grass, there's still a very unfinished fence that's in this painting. I have the bars as place markers, but what I haven't done yet is the weaving of the fence. There's some sort of cage kind of thing over here. I did it early on to get an idea of how to approach the weaving. One thing I'm going to pay attention to is the way the lighting is hitting the weaves at this angle. The last thing I want to do is create lines that stand out in a bad way. In the end, I just want the impression of a fence. The sheep on the left are probably the most complete part of the entire painting, but that doesn't mean they don't need any more work. Just like the grass, I'm gonna be working on the color balance. My goal in the end is for a nice glow of the sun, and if it doesn't have that appearance, I'm probably gonna go back into these sheep and focus on some of the lighting. And then there's this guy here. I'm gonna spend a lot of attention on him, especially since he's at the very front of the viewing plane and he will be staring directly at the viewer. But besides that guy, I might go back into the sheep and weave a little more detail. If you ask me what was the hardest part of this painting, you'd be surprised for me to tell you it was actually doing the field. There's something about this field that took quite a bit of time. Doing the field required a lot of experimentation. I consistently redid sections. The field involved a lot of line work and pattern recreation. There was no way I was going to be able to capture each field with pure accuracy, but I tried to as much as I could, because what I was recreating was the scenery from my village. And to me, it's a very iconic view, and for everyone who has been to that part of Greece, hopefully they recognize those hills. I know when I went for some of my walks up in the hills, I would take a gander and see them in the distance. And I said this before in some of my other videos. I don't feel the photo captured the lighting accurately that day. That's why I exaggerated the brightness and color, especially the orange glow. Speaking of the orange glow, I haven't finished the tree line at the very top, and that's intentional. Ideally, when I paint the sky, I want to apply those trees that are in this area in a wet on wet action. By doing that, I definitely will be giving them a softer touch and even push them back more further into the distance, because I do not want them to stand out too much. There's other trees that are a lot closer, such as these over here, and of course, such as this one here as well. One of the finer little details I'm going to try to capture is the very hint of red. It's not very obvious, but I did use red in this painting in the forms of alizarin crimson, but also cadmium red. But besides those two colors and mixtures, it's also here. There are some wildflowers that are very red. It's something I want people to see as an afterthought when they're going through my painting. Because in the end, sometimes you want people to look at your painting for longer than a few seconds. You want them to observe it for several minutes. And I feel like having little hidden details such as flowers kind of keeps the viewer occupied a little longer. And of course, like usual, I hid my signature somewhere. Where is it? Well, it's a secret, but I'll definitely reveal it eventually. The other thing I've tried to look into, are there any sore thumbs in the painting? What I'm talking about are sections that really stand out in a very bad way, where you have to address them. And guess what? I do have sections like that. I'm still not sold in this little area right here. There's something about it that I find distracting, especially some white fixture that's hiding behind this tree. I might take it upon myself and use my artistic liberty and just flat out eliminate that area, because in some ways it's kind of distracting. But part of me does not want to, and that's because I will ruin the authenticity of the area I am depicting. It might be a last minute thing, but to me, it's something that has been bothering me, especially after I did the video on how I painted this tree right here. And then there's some of the sheep. Some of the faces I feel are a little bit unfinished, such as this guy here who's looking at the field. I did use two different photos. In one photo, he's not looking at the field, and in the other he is. He was actually the first sheep I actually painted, face-wise at least. And in that regard, he's also the weakest. And this guy here doesn't even look like a sheep in some ways. And besides the color balance of the grass, there's also the color balance of these bushes over here. I did paint them early on, and they don't look like they belong in the painting. So I'll probably correct them a little bit at one point. Last but not least, I always look into what I could do differently to pull the illusion of depth and distance. Again, this involves standing far away from your painting and then also looking at it up close. Sometimes it involves cooling color to push something back, or it might involve using some warm tones to pull something forward. And edges, softening some areas goes a long way in trying to push things into the back. And one of the most complex areas I was having a hard time with is this area here. I was struggling so much, I stopped filming the time lapse for that area because I kept messing up. One of the reasons was I was doing it too sharp and then I was doing it too soft. I might still even go back into that area. It all depends on how the sky looks at the very end. Because if you look at it, the setting sun is hitting this area pretty directly. Anyhow, that's all I have for you today. If you made it to the end, thanks for watching. You have to be your worst critic sometimes in order to get better. And with each painting I try to do, I try to push myself to the limit and do things that I would never have thought possible, even if it means spending almost an entire year doing it. And hopefully you found this video helpful on how to look at a painting before it's finished and the decisions you have to make in order to finish it. If you notice from the lack of videos I've done these past few months, it's because this painting has taken a lot of my time. Plus, editing videos does take a while as well. But after I'm done this painting, I'm definitely going to do something completely different next, which will be more experimental. And a hint is I'm going to use acrylic paint, something I haven't done for about a year. Plus, I feel like I'll be able to finish a painting a lot quicker. So stay tuned for more. Once again, my name is Charles Bose. I go by Bob, and I'm not your typical painter. Thanks again. Until next time, bye.